Welcome to the session on a subject so important, so critical to the welfare and well-being of over 8.5 million Indian workers, an ever-growing number in the 17 emigration check required countries. For the last 2.5 years, this has been a subject which has captured this ministry's imagination and focus. There are 4 keywords that define our approach to the immigration issue: safe, orderly, humane, and legal. And under the guidance of Honorable External Affairs Minister and with active involvement of our 2 Minister of States, we have been in regular discussions with the key stakeholders, both within our country as well as abroad with the receiving countries, to deal with the issues that we face on the immigration issues. We have organized a number of panel discussions. We have involved Consultative Committee of Parliament, the Standing Committee of Parliament. We have kept the stakeholders on board on the line of thinking that we have evolved in the past 2.5 years on this subject. In the revised format of our PBD, we had this session on immigration issues held in June last year, which was chaired by Honorable External Affairs Minister, and in which we had participation from our ambassadors who are present here. We also had representatives of IOM, ICM, and other representative bodies, ILO, as well as our distinguished panelists who have again joined us today. Before I venture into the key issues that we dealt with and the recommendations which emerged from the panel discussions, I would like to tell you about the kind of general framework that we are working under, the kind of issues that we have, and the size of the issues. As you can see from the slide, India is the largest diaspora in the world, 30 million PIOs and NRIs. I look after the Gulf countries. Out of 8.5 million internationals in the 17 ECR countries, almost 90% of them live in GCC countries. And their profile, if you look at, it's a highly diversified profile now. It has no longer remained the blue-collar workers only. We have got highly skilled people, white-collar jobs people. And if you see the increase in the migration, it has been stupendous in the last few years. Since I have joined, I used to quote a figure of 6.5 million 4 years ago. It has now moved to 8.5 million. Contrary to the common belief that people come from Kerala and Andhra Pradesh, the profile has completely changed. We get people from UP, Bihar, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Punjab and Rajasthan, which have become our key sending states. And these people do a great job for us. They send us a lot of money back. So almost 40% of our total remittance of $68 billion we received in 2015, 40% of it came from GCC countries. I would like to tell you about the challenges we face and our general approach towards the immigration issues. The immigration cycle comprises of 2 distinct elements, but definitely these are overlapping elements. One is the pre-departure phase in the sending country and in the sending states, and then the country of destination, and finally the cycle gets completed when these people come back home. So in the pre-departure phase, the most important challenge that we face is a challenge arising from the unscrupulous recruitment agents, who at times collude with the foreign employers and make life of a migrant worker very difficult. Then in the country of destination, they go with a contract, the contracts get substituted, they face harassments. There are kafala systems prevalent in especially GCC countries. Some countries are moving away from it, including Qatar. But then with the kafala system, passports get taken away. So there is a difficulty in repatriation of those people in case they get into difficulties in an employer-employee relationship. Then there are some legal safeguards which are not available. For example, in Kuwait, we don't have local laws which cover domestic sector workers. Visa conversion takes place in destination countries, as also in third countries where people go through on tourist visas. And finally, when people come back after working there, completing their assignments 3-4 years, they find not adequate support system back home in their own country. And secondly, the skills they have upgraded, we don't get those skills tapped in our country. So I have already spoken to you about the 4 basic words that define our approach to the immigration issues. We have coined a very important phrase by our External Affairs Minister, Surakshit Jaye, Prashikshit Jaye. So in that, the first cycle, we are training our people, we are making them full of the skills that are expected of them when they reach in their destination countries. In all migration cycles, we provide them all possible support. There are pre-departure orientation programs we are working on. Minister spoke about it in the previous discussions. We are creating a number of institutional mechanisms about which I'm going to speak to you. And then we have got, as I told you, been in regular dialogue with the Indian states, sending states, which are now new states have come up, so new challenges, as also the receiving countries. And we receive their feedbacks, and we use those feedbacks as we are using the feedbacks of the panel discussions to make our systems more effective and to make sure that it becomes a migrant-friendly system. One of the major initiatives that our foreign minister had when she came here was to create an institutional mechanism under which you can deal with the grievances, the consular problems that our people face when they reach these countries. So we have created an online platform. One of our ambassador in Qatar, he was instrumental when he was Joint Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs and doing this. It's the Mother Portal, launched in 21st February 2015. Then we have got other structures created within the ambit of the mission. So there are Indian Workers Resource Centers. In 2010, when President went there, we had the first center in Dubai. Last year, we had 3 more centers, Sharjah, Jeddah, and Riyadh. One more is coming up in Kuala Lumpur. These are 24/7 helplines, toll-free helplines. We have also created Overseas Workers Resource Center in Gurgaon, and there are 5 migrant resource centers spread all over the country, and they provide all assistance to people who are traveling abroad seeking employment. Another very useful institutional mechanism we have created is the ICWF. And under the umbrella of the ICWF, we authorize, we empower our ambassadors, our high commissioners to carry out certain expenditures to assist people in difficulties. We are expanding the scope of this particular scheme. Then we also provide some insurance schemes. The scheme that I've highlighted here, Pravasi Bharati Bima Yojana. This is a compulsory scheme, so you have to tick it out when you are traveling abroad. It provides 10 lakh rupees of accidental claim, death in case of accidental accidents. And we are now trying to expand its scope also, and we are in touch with all the stakeholders in this regard. I'll now briefly talk about the key issues and the panel recommendations. The panel suggested, and as we had been doing it in the last 3-4 years, that we should have agreements in comprehensive nature with the receiving countries. We do have 8 agreements with all 6 GCC, Jordan, and Malaysia. But these agreements require to be updated because of the new challenges that have come up. So we are now negotiating with the receiving states these agreements. We have signed one during the Prime Minister's visit in Saudi Arabia last year in April, which is a comprehensive agreement with Saudi Arabia. With Saudi Arabia, we also did in 2014, the first country, a domestic sector workers agreement. And you can see there are much less problems on DSW front with regard to Saudi Arabia. In addition to the agreement, what we are trying to do is to ensure that these agreements do include the necessary work contracts. So we are creating model work contracts in consultation with international bodies, organizations, and these contracts are negotiated also. What has happened is our migration process has been an organic process. Government of India neither promotes nor inhibits the migration of people from here to seek work opportunities abroad. And these opportunities are controlled primarily by the Immigration Act of 1983. But what we have done is over a period of time, we have included certain mechanisms and certain systems by which the challenges which have emerged since 1983 in terms of our migration, we have been dealing with those through those mechanisms. And e-migrate system is one such mechanism which we have developed organically, and it's a very, very good system. Unfortunately, we developed our system. The receiving countries developed their own systems. We have got 2 sets of pipes. Water is flowing, there is no connect. So there's a lot of leakage. And what happens is this leakage causes a lot of challenges, both in the receiving country and the the sending country. So what we are now trying to do is to discuss with the receiving countries that we should have the two e-migrate system, the electronic system that they have and the electronic system that we have when we are sending our people out to speak to each other. And that has been a very important suggestion which has come up, and we have taken it on board. Then the other issue is human trafficking issue, and this has also engaged us in the last 4 years. We have also given drafts through our Ministry of Home Affairs to all the GCC countries so that we have an institutional framework to prevent human trafficking. This is work in progress, and I will be able to give you happy news in the next 3-4 months when we will have good agreements signed with some of these countries. The other challenge we have faced is the unscrupulous recruitment agents. And I mentioned to you right in the beginning that all kind of malpractices, cheating take place within the country before our workers travel abroad. Another important recommendation which has come is about empowering the migrant workers with the required skill jobs. Surakshit jaye, prashikshit jaye. Winston spoke about the kind of Pravasi Kaushal centers that we are creating. Finally, the insurance of migrant workers. We are trying to simplify the procedures for PBD. In fact, there used to be a challenge that when, in an unfortunate case of death in accidents, some documents were required, and it becomes a huge task for the family to provide those documents because the family is not there with the worker. Now, what we have done is we have got the insurance companies to agree that a simple piece of paper from our embassy saying that this fellow has passed on because of this reason, and that paper should be accepted as a proof of his accidental death. They have agreed on that. So we are now in the process of simplifying these procedures, and thankfully we have been able to negotiate good with several insurance companies in this regard. Then very important and very humane issue is about the domestic sector workers. If you travel to some of these countries, this is the most vulnerable section, because this section is not covered by the labor laws. The domestic sector workers are under the purview of the Ministry of Home within the receiving countries. And there is no mechanism by which we can help them. So we faced a lot of challenges in this regard. Thankfully, we see some countries taking proactive measures to correct that anomaly. UAE, as you are aware, is now moving the domestic sector workers into the ambit of the labor laws. So then the general agreement that we will sign along with the contract will be applicable to the DSWs also. One major challenge we have faced is about people using the tourist visa routes to travel out. UAE provides tourist visas, Saudis do not. People travel to UAE, they get the visas converted, they go to Saudi Arabia, Oman, and work there. So what we are doing is now, not only we are doing strict screening of our people traveling out, but we are also taking this issue up with the receiving countries so that the visa substitution does not take place when people reach third countries. I have talked about the job, the working conditions, and the salaries. False information are given to our workers. There is a mismatch between the expectation of the employer and the kind of briefing given to the worker. Employer believes the worker knows how to do Hoover. The worker does not know the meaning of Hoover. So this is the start of a very bad relationship right in the beginning. What we are now doing as a system is to train our people in the jobs that they are supposed to do there, and raising the awareness of our people traveling out. And it is not only the migrant workers, we are also raising the awareness of the families involved. Because at the end of the day, once the worker travel out, the family is left to their own devices in terms of connecting with the workers. And once they know what kind of expectations are there from the workers, family also gets benefited. And finally, as a useful institutional mechanism, we have got some states which have been sending people out, like Kerala, and they've got some nice institutional mechanism, Norca, for example. We are telling all these states now who are sending workers out to make similar institutions. In the presentation, I've spoken about the action taken, so this will be a repetition, but this has been a process which has engaged us in the last several years. We are very keen that the migration process remains a happy experience for the migrant worker. And as a system, as a government, we are keen to have suggestions from you, very constructive criticism from you, and I now conclude my discussions on that. and we can have now the question and answer. Thank you.
Well, we already have your questions coming in. I'm going to request the ushers to forward these to Mr. Mridul Kumar and Mr. M.C. Luther, who can then decide to take them up with the panel. Now we're going to have a release of a handbook on the subject of welfare and protection of Indians abroad. I'd like to request both the Honorable Ministers and the Secretary to please do the honors. First, the handbook, Welfare and Protection of Indians Abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, one more release. This is a brochure on the Migrant project. Thank you very much. More happy moments now. We're going to request Mr. Margot, a prominent Pravasi from USA, who had pledged a contribution yesterday of $25,000 to the India Development Foundation, to now hand over the check to the Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, Dr. V.K. Singh. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, this contribution is from U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce, Dallas, Texas. This is a small contribution to support the skill development of widows of war. We will be providing them the laptops and then distance learning from Dallas County Community College District so that those ladies can be on their own feet and bring financial strength to their family. And just the previous panel, we had the 15 organizations. I hope and wish and will appeal to all of them, if they all can contribute $25,000 each, you will have 400,000 right in today. So I think we all owe it to the country where we were born and we were raised. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Margot, for expressing your noble thoughts. And now I'd like to hand over back to the panel. Thank you.
Well, we have had a good session, very good presentation by Joint Secretary Mridul, and we have a fairly large number of questions here. What we are going to do, due to paucity of time, is hand over all those suggestions to Mridul, who will take them on board Many of those issues have already been discussed. However, in addition to that, I request you to kindly contact our respective ambassadors who are going to be here for the whole day to raise your issues, and then they will also give feedback to Joint Secretary Mrudul, with whom they are working very closely. With this, I'll request Honorable MOS MJ to say a few words or give his concluding remarks for this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my esteemed colleague General Singh, distinguished members of the panel, very distinguished invitees to the podium, and most of all, friends in the hall. I will be very brief, but I just would like to draw your attention that there is an insidious effort being made at this moment internationally to confuse the immigrant with the refugee. This is something that we have taken very seriously on board, and this is something that we will not allow to happen. Refugees are a problem, not of their own making and not of their own choice, whatever the circumstances. But immigration is an important, positive development in the 21st century economy. Globalization is the buzzword. But how can you have globalization of capital without globalization of professional skills? And professional skills mean skills at all tiers of the economic need and all tiers of functioning. So those who think that they can actually draw in an international capital market but deny people the right, the basic right to work and contribute to a large number of complementary economies, parallel economies, and certainly cooperative economies, do not understand what the true nature of the world architecture that is actually being created. Finally, one of the instruments that we are using to solve the problem, apart from the instruments of state, like policy, governance, the great diplomatic service, which is always at your service and command, the new element that we are using very strongly is the use of technology. And this use of technology is enabling us to create structures whose end result is the benefit of people who are working in other countries with the help and the support of their domestic governments. So thank you all very much, and I hand over the mic to General Singh.
My esteemed colleague, Shri M.J. Akbar, all our senior officers who are sitting here, and a very, very eminent panel on both the sides who went into various issues in great detail. They came prepared, they brought various issues in the countries that they live in. And besides that, we have got from time to time, and also in the PBD, like from Qatar, I've got a memorandum that they have given. There are others also who are giving suggestions and issues which we need to look at. Let me take this opportunity to assure each and every one that we will give full attention to whatever you give us. You have a whole day today, write it and give it to us. I'm also requesting our heads of missions once again, there's a holding room here, please sit there. Some of them will come to you with problems which may be specific to you or to individual or to the country. I would like a feedback in the evening from you as to what all has been discussed so that we can make our systems that much better. Our whole aim is that we would like to assist, we would like to ensure that you are safe, we would like to ensure that people who are immigrating are safe, and a very clear distinction was brought out by our MOS on refugee status and migration for economic activity. I think there is something which is happening, and we are quite clear as to what path we have to follow. All I would like to say is a big thank you to the panel. Please give them a big hand. Now, with that kind of clapping, I don't think they'll get, yeah. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please give yourself a big hand for being here with us. It's a pleasure. I apologize for this guillotining the time, but the session was only till 11, and we need to go through other sessions so that we can stick to the time frame before the President comes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And these final moments to felicitate our very distinguished panel. May we please have the Angavastrams on stage? And do move forward, please, in front of the head table.